Hey guys, Jay here, and today I am back with another iteration of testing the Caswen Stun character with different setup. Currently I am on my level 97 Scion, but technically it should be like level 95 because if you see over here, if you count the number of points of ascendancy that I'm having, I actually am just having 6 points out of 8, so I still have 2 extra passive, which is equal to 2 levels. This disclaimer is a very scuffed setup. I did not take, enough tankiness for this character whatsoever. That is why I kind of die 5 times in this simulacrum run already. I am currently at wave 28, and I am going to jump into and just show you guys a little bit of gameplay. But I want to go through the setup first and what it is. So basically, it is corrupting fever along with reap and exsanguinate of transmission. The reason why I choose those skill is because they are all the same skill. And this is not the only setup that I am going to be testing that has this kind of theme, multiple skill with same scaling. I am obviously going to also try out the chaos iteration because we do have a lot of chaos skill that basically scale exactly the same way. So why do I choose this skill? I figure out that the probably the only problem that I have heard complain about for this Caswen Stun build is about single target. And in order to solve single target, before we kind of abuse a broken skill of designated chain reaction, which is massive amount of damage with very minimal investment. However, there's a high chance that it is going to be nerfed. I'm not sure to what degree it will be nerfed, but probably it will be nerfed quite hard. I would hope it will stay around 4% corpse life, so that is like a 20% nerf. That will be a-okay. We don't need to find anything new, but I'm afraid it might go even down lower than that, maybe to 2% or something like that, and we will lose the majority of the natural damage. And so in order to make it viable again for a lot of different setup, this one included, you kind of need to have more damage scaling to compensate for that. And yeah, the reason why we choose that skill in the beginning is it has enough damage. You don't have to go crit for it because this build is already very point intensive. You do not have a lot of points on your skill tree to invest in something like crit, because crit normally is kind of the bread and butter of scaling damage in a lot of builds. I would say in the majority of builds in POE and probably even in ARPG in general, you always want to go crit for as much damage as possible. However, that is not an option for this kind of character where we have to stretch out on the skill tree to get a lot of things defensively, and normally those kind of defensive things are nowhere close to all the crit scaling that we need to effectively scaling crit on this type of character, if that makes sense. Right, so that left me with actually not a lot of options available. Then I realized there are a couple of things that I have not touched in my, testing in the beginning of making this character in the first place, like a few months back in Affliction. So there are the physical damage over time, which is the setup that I am testing over here. I did not try it. This time I am going to try it. And then there is the chaos damage over time archetype. So you might think that those are actually very weak. Hey, I agree. In a normal build, those things are very weak. However, that is because of the limitation of the play style, or the way that the game function, basically, because those damage over time effect normally don't stack on itself. For example, you have exsanguinate over here, right? It is dealing 160k damage over time per second, right? So if you cast this exsanguinate and you scale damage over time, you were not gaining any extra damage if you cast it again whenever the debuff of damage over time did not run out on the target, right? So in order to maximize the damage, you kind of have to have multiple skill, and that create a very, very big problem in a traditional character in Path of Exile, which is you do not want to use multiple skill, you do not want to press multiple buttons. And yeah, this build actually, we just need to put everything on cast when stun. So yeah, the damage over time from exsanguinates in this case stack on top of the damage over time from Reap, and also stack on top of the damage over time from 10 stack up to 10 stack of Corrupting Fever. And so overall, let's just see here, we have around 90k physical damage per second here, and this one is per Corrupting Blood stack. So times that by 10, which is the maximum amount of Corrupting Blood stack we can have on a target. That is going to deal damage. It is 500k. This is another 160k. On the Reap here is another 180k, and sometimes on single target you have an additional around 400k on the Val Reap. And yeah, every single one of those damage over time effect does not stack with itself, but they can stack on top of each other. And so we have a total of I would say, I did not do the math, just say 2, 2, 4, so this is 7, this is 8, just around 750k damage over time. This is before any curses, any increased damage taken, everything. And I am having Pride, which does not show on the tooltip, and I am having Fresh and Stone, which is going to be on Bloodstand, which will maim the enemy and make them take increased physical damage. And of course, I have other sources like curses, those kind of things that will increase the damage taken from enemies. We can have like punishment, we can have vulnerability, obviously. So yeah, those kind of sources can improve the damage taken from the enemies. And so the damage over time from physical damage is not mitigated by armor, and physical have no resistances. So actually it is a pretty good type of damage. It pretty much is only reduced by raw physical mitigation or raw damage mitigation, damage reduction from bosses, right? Which all damage will suffer from that. And so yeah, I tried it, and so far it looks way better than the Scorpion, the Herald of Agony thing that I have tried in the previous video. This one, I am currently at wave 28. The damage start to feel a little bit lacking in wave 28. It can still deal damage to break the shield of Kossis, but it does take a while. However, this is not, again, a proper setup. I did not set up this character properly defensively, right? So Cloak of Flame here, and I don't even have a Ruby Flask, things like that, just little things. They add up, and then I just, at this stage in the Simulacrum in wave 28, I started to die to the Kossis Slam, which can easily be solved in this character, by the way. I can just simply go in Juggernaut as usual, and we can, properly build it, get the Timeless Jewel Keystone for tankiness or for damage. There's a lot of things that is left that I can do with this character. I basically just do a lot of inefficient things basically on this character. For example, in order to try to just fit in this, I sacrifice one jewel slot here for the possible escape just to get this. This is not really that good of a point to get for this build. Yeah. Technically, I only need like a 4% reservation. Maybe it can be like a corrupted jewel implicit. That'll be enough, and I have one jewel slot and another point. Those kind of little things add up, and long story short, I just want to have a disclaimer on this showcase that this character is not properly built, right? Because I am testing, so I really don't want to spend a lot of min-maxing, a lot of time min-maxing the character before actually see the patch note, if that makes sense, right? I just want to test a certain aspect of the character and want to feel it a little bit. So here, in this case, for this current character, if I just stay here, this big thing, when Cosis slam there and pop it, I will die. Sometimes I will die even to that without this thing popping, right? So yeah, you see the problem. But you can see that I am dealing damage to them. Oh yeah, I forgot to even turn on the corrupting fever. That is something that we need to get used to, because before with the other build, we literally do not get to press any button. In this build, probably in every single wave, you need to press the corrupting fever button once for it to trigger, and you can start applying corrupting blood stacks, and then you can stop, right? But anyway, let's just open another simulacrum. Probably we will not be running it to the end, but just want to show you how the clear feel basically, and it just feels good enough in my opinion. Maybe we can find some additional tech to get more damage out of the setup. That I would like to wait for the patch note basically. So here, in before the wave, we press the corrupting fever, so we have a buff that basically it will last you for the whole thing, right? Corrupting fever feels really great in this current setup, because even if you remove this skill, so the only skill that is technically hitting the enemies right now that I have are Tornado, Elemental Turbulence. Obviously, you hit with Reap and Exsanguinous, but they are not a huge amount of hits on each target, right? So all that I need is just that Tornado, because it hit enemies in a constant rate of 4 times per second. And we have 3 of the tornadoes, so they will always apply up to 12 stack of corrupting blood every single second. And each stack of corrupting blood right now lasts for 1.1 seconds. So as long as we are applying 10 stack or more over 1 second, we are maximizing the damage, right? And yeah, we can clear pretty well, because the tornado is reaching quite far. They are kind of chasing the monster in the corner, so it just feels pretty clean, if that makes sense, right? And so yeah, that is the current setup that I am having. I will test out, obviously, the things that I have mentioned before with the Animate Guardian. I am leveling a duelist to test it out, but right now I jumped into this Scion in order to try out this thing. The reason why I want to try Scion is, first of all, I want to see if we can survive with this level of tankiness in the Simulacrum, because literally we don't have any extra defense against against Cosis and Omniphobia in this ascendancy basically. The defensive thing that we can get here is just suppress, right? We can have suppression here and a little bit more damage because we can gain frenzy charge. But that is it. I take it because we do have 20% more physical damage over time over here, which obviously scale the damage, physical damage over time, right? So yeah, I want to try this one out, but I think probably we will still stick with the Juggernaut here. Or maybe we can go Duelist. We can get Champion, because Champion have the Fortify Ascendancy, which is super tanky, and we can just use the Forbidden Flesh and Flame and get 20% physical damage over time multiplier from Gladiator if it stayed the same. I think probably Gladiator is going to be buffed this league because they kind of teased it like in a way, right? Let's wait. It's not that long until the GGG live stream. So yeah, that is everything I want to share in this video. Kind of, let's just I'm kind of sad I didn't turn on the record button a few waves earlier because the monster density in the early wave is kind of very low here, right? So you cannot really feel the smoothness of this setup. I imagine, I think, if the chaos setup is going to be enough damage for single target, right? It is going to be a completely superior setup from this one, because contagion and essence drain is the thing, right? It will spread all around places because this is a relatively close area. So what you can do is in every single wave you can just do things like this, right? And I will make a video when I test out the chaos damage setup and let you guys know the result. But anyway, you can just go around and make sure you trigger every corner, and then you can stand in the middle, monster will spawn, and you will just basically spread the contagion everywhere, because the monsters are very close together in this content. Given that also in the next patch, Simulacrum is going to be only from wave 16 to 30 as we are having it right now. So the monster density will be very good because it is a little wave. We don't need to go through these lame low level shit. And yeah. So I think it has potential. The reason why it has potential is because the damage uptime is better. It compensates for the fact that the damage itself at maximum capacity is not that high. So detonate dead of chain reaction or any like other kind of hit-based skill, they kind of often have higher ceiling than a damage over time skill like this one, or skills like we are using in this case, multiple skills. They have higher ceiling of damage, but in this kind of setup, we rely on enemies to hit us in order to actually get the damage going, basically, because if we do not get hit by the enemies, we cannot get stunned. If we do not get stunned, we don't cast anything, and we do not kill anything. Do not deal any damage, right? So in the case where we are like soloing the bosses, things like that, we just need them to hit us like once every few seconds, because our damage is damage over time and it deals the damage for the whole duration, right? So if we only get hit once every 2, 3, 4 seconds, it's okay. We still have 100% uptime of all the damage that we are setting up, or close to 100%. Things like that. So yeah, that is the reason why I do not really just do POB on this stuff, is because I really want to actually see how it performs in reality, in an actual situation. Because POB can be deceiving sometime. Again, this build is not well represented through POB. That makes sense, right? this build rely heavily on the condition of everything around the character. So at maximum proc rate, absolutely it is destroying everything. If you get hit 10 times per second, if you get stunned 10 times per second, you cast 10 times per second, and things like detonate dead of chain reaction, or any other hard hitting spells like Hex Blast or something like that, which just deals a lot of damage. But because that is overkill for clearing mobs, and that is kind of problematic when fighting bosses, where in a lot of cases you do not get hit that often. Then yeah, this damage over time scaling might be the solution. It also is not as point intensive as, say, crit. We can just simply go, for example, in this one, I have on the skill tree this wheel for physical damage over time, and this wheel for physical damage and physical damage over time. The rest of the damage scaling mostly from the 2 cluster jewels that we are going to get anyway, because the jewels are super strong right now. Even though this I am having some of the magic jewels, but I don't even have Adorn in here. I have a 149% Adorn in my bank, but I decided to not use it basically because it's not realistic. Obviously, if we use Adorn and set up for the Adorn, it will be much stronger. That is also something promising that we are not utilizing in this current setup. So the damage, we can get it to a much higher number than this, right? Also, in terms of survivability, I want to talk a little bit more about... So currently I am using a very nice Cane of Kulamark for this. I'm having level Suggeted Support Gem, which scale the level of Empower, and of course other support gems, which give us a lot of damage. Also have physical damage over time multiplier, and then spell damage. So this is like probably a perfect Cane of Kulamark for this build. However, for, say, easier content, we can potentially use a bow like this one. This is just an example of probably the best in slot bow already, if you get all tier 1, right? So you get 1 level of Socketed Gems, which will scale the gem level, of course, and then it will scale the empowered level as well. So you have +2 from crafted here, so you still have +3 to empower, but you have +1 also to the skill itself. And then you also have a physical damage over time multiplier crafted, and then naturally you can roll damage over time multiplier. If I am going to min-max this, right, the cold damage roll is useless here. The roll that you can have here is the Essence of Woe, which is this one. If you really want to min-max, I would think a bow is probably very good. Essence of Woe, if you use it on a two-handed weapon, it will grant you up to 144% spell damage, which just make this bow basically the same as the Cane of Kulamark, maybe a little bit bigger. But you also gain a quiver slot, and the quiver slot is super nice. You can have additional damage from it because you can roll damage over time and damage over time multiplier for physical, I believe, in the quiver. Maybe not, maybe just damage over time multiplier, but you can also get life resistances, which is super valuable from a quiver slot. So you basically gain 1 additional gear slot. That is so much better than your staff. This is just easy because I see it on the market. I just buy it, so I do not have to spend a lot of time with buying more gear, basically. But I spend 5 minutes crafting this bow. Cost me like 5 divine. super easy. Maybe it's not that easy to get in the League Star environment, but in League Star environment you get settled for something less, right? So yeah, you can do the same for Chaos, I believe. For Chaos, you can even naturally roll like chaos damage over time on the bow, I believe, because the bow has a chaos damage over time archetype, right? And so, I'll let you know probably tomorrow. I will spend today sometimes spend on leveling the duelist so I can test out the champion with the minion setup for Casper Stun. Yeah, for tomorrow I will probably release the video on the chaos iteration of the setup. So we have a lot of chaos damage over time skill. We have obviously Essence Drain and Contagion. We also, because the Essence Drain, you cannot link like multiple of it, they will not stack on top of each other. So you can also have like Soul Rend, Bane also. You sadly cannot use Blight, but because it's a channeling skill, so it cannot be triggered from Casper Stun. However, we kind of are socket starving already with just those options. As you can see here, I have Corrupting Fever here as a 6-linked, and then the Exsanguinate and the Reap is already having to share the same 6-link. So we have 2 5-link in a 6-link armor. So yeah, they already have to share it. And remember that the Simulacrum is and still is on the harder end of contents. So for normal mapping, I think it will be a cakewalk, especially with this setup, because for normal mapping, I would say obviously you will have more speed than this, because I am not even using a flash for movement speed, right? You would just run around. You do not have to get hit like a lot of times, right? You will have Corrupting Fever on, obviously, and then you will move around when the tornadoes are just seeking out enemies and just applying Corrupting Blood Stack basically on everyone around. It will feel smoother than the Detonated Chain Reaction. The Detonated Chain Reaction's coverage is more around your character, and sometimes it does lag behind your character, and a lot of the damage is wasted. However, for this particular setup, you will be able to deal damage in a larger area overall, because the skill that we are using to deliver the damage has very, very good reach, if that makes sense, right? So yeah, that is everything I want to share in this video for today. Probably I already talked way more than I wanted, but I'm kind of excited, right? I think you guys probably are excited as well, because we have around, I would say, 2 months from me, maybe 2.5, maybe even 3 months for some of you guys out there who decided to give up on Necropolis early on because there's a lot of problems. But yeah, it is such a long dry streak, and it kind of is natural that we feels very hyped, because we all are waiting for the next leak, hoping it to be a good one. So far, from the things that I see, especially the most recent reveal of bringing back Wildwood, not the Ascendancy sadly, but they are bringing back the Wisp. That'll be awesome, man. Remember the original time where this Caswin Stun character is created. It is the first iteration of it is the Chieftain with Caswin Stun normal detonate that ignite, and then you prolife the ignite on the Wisp with the Chieftain explosion, right? So hey, the Wisp coming back means there are more stuff for this character to shine on. We don't need to only stay in one place in the Simulacrum. We can just run around as well in maps, and yeah, we'll have a good time. At least I hope so. It better be, man. It better be. It's been tough making POE content while not able to make POE content. Right, so yeah, see you next time. I hope you find this helpful or interesting in some way. And if you do, please remember to like and subscribe to the channel. It does help me a lot. And until next time, again, I know I repeat it, but peace.